Welcome back, fellow maidens. It is I, the Dark Fair Maiden, and today we are doing a tier list on Elden Ring's boss weapons. So this is going to be really exciting because Elden Ring is awesome. There's a lot of really cool weapons. So we're going to have a close look at those today and see what ones rank high on our list. So we're basically going to be ranking these weapons on effectiveness, epicness, design, their Ash of War. So starting off then, the Star Scourge Greatsword. We all know and love Verdan very dearly. He's a very cool boss. These are really cool. These are really cool swords. They have a really great Ash of War if you use Star Color Cry, which does this really awesome pull, like the gravity pull, and then like you do a massive hit. So that is one epic boss weapon for sure. I think everyone can agree. So not only is it effective, but the design is pretty epic as well, I'd say. We probably should have another column just for epicness. But for now, that goes in epic and effective. Next up, we have the Axe of Godric. Now everyone, I'm sure, loves Godric. I don't know, I'm kidding. I don't love him. He's a cool boss, but really, he's just kind of a joke at the start. You think he's gonna be awesome, and he's just like a whiny little baby. But the design on this is pretty mid. There's not much going on. It's standard, it looks clean, but all in all, I wouldn't use it. It's not even a cool, I wouldn't even say it's a cool concept, because it's just an axe. So I would give it's trying. So we'll put that down there. Next up then we have the Gazing Finger from the Mother of Fingers. Now, this is a fairly cool weapon in terms of design. I like the look of it. I like how they've designed the fingers in this game. I think they're very cool, quite ancient looking. In terms of use though, sadly this one is not exactly the most strongest weapon, nor is its Ash of War that great either. Very mid, very mediocre. There's plenty more great weapons you can use, so this one sadly is going in. I don't even feel like it's trying. I feel like it's more of a cool concept, but I would never use. We should probably change those around, but they're staying where they are. So next up we have the Bastard Stars. So at first it was a bit controversial, this one to me. I thought it was the most disappointing weapon to get from such a cool boss. It drops from Estelle, one of the coolest looking bosses in the game in terms of like weirdness. He's a very weird looking boss for sure. But in actual fact, this weapon is pretty cool. I come to actually quite like this, and I like its Ash of War. I love how it's got like this night sky effect. I think it's quite beautiful. The weapon itself looks kind of goofy. It looks like some keychain. I don't know. It's the most wackiest kind of weapon I could even ever imagine FromSoft creating. So it's not that it's a bad weapon, but I wouldn't say it's epic. If anything, I would say it's a cool concept, but I don't know. I feel like it should be a Y, From Software Y. Like, I don't dislike it, but it's a weird one. I think it's Y, From Software Y. Why From Software Y? Why create such an awesome boss to create such a strange weapon? Next up, we have the Winged Great Horn. A pretty standard weapon, kinda cool. Not too much going on in terms of the design. It looks nice, sure. Is it something I would use? I don't think I've ever actually used this weapon, to be honest. To me, the concept, I don't know, it's lacking. It's not even saying, I wouldn't even say it's trying. I would kind of give it a Y, From Software Y. I feel like this boss could have dropped such a better weapon, to be honest, and to get something like this, it just seems kind of lazy. So therefore, I'm going to just put it in the Y, so From Software Y. Next up, we have the wonderful, the also beautiful Marika's Hammer. One of my favorite weapons in the game, mainly because it was Marika's, and I love Marika. I think she's a great boss. I love her lore, her story, and especially when the DLC came out, you learned so much more of her backstory and everything that happened. So this hammer, I just feel like is reminiscent of so much in the lore of Marika. It has a really cool Ash of War called Goldbreaker. This is one of the awesome Ashes of War that is quite mobile. I love Ashes of War like that because it gives you a chance to get off the grounds and escape enemies' attack by doing an Ash of War that's off the grounds, kind of like flying about slightly. and it's unbreakable. So basically an enemy can't break the stance of it. So that's awesome. So it means you're able to do the full thing, the full damage to the enemy, and I think that's awesome. I love the design. It's simple, but also it's unique. It's quite different. It's not just a regular hammer design. I love the lore behind it. I just think everything about this weapon is awesome. I'm also biased because I love Marika, but I think this has to go in epic and effective. I think it's a good enough weapon if you fully level it up. I don't think it's ineffective, and I think it does have a really great Ash of War, so therefore it's definitely going in epic. Next up we have an all-time favourite of pretty much everyone who's ever played Elden Ring, the Blasphemous Blade. Now this is a blade I haven't actually used that much in the game because it's kind of resin and I therefore didn't want to play it or use it. But this is an awesome weapon for sure, with an amazing Ash of War. Not only is the Ash of War epic with the flames and stuff, but it's also an awesome designed blade. I love the lore behind it. It's quite deadly and bloody looking, so therefore I think it has to go in. It's quite obvious where we're going to put it here. Now, one of my all-time favourite weapons, Malekith's Blade. Now the reason this one is a favourite of mine is because, well, one, I used it pretty much in a lot of the endgame content for when I was playing, whenever I got the blade, and it stuck with me. The design for this blade is beyond my imagination. I just love it. I just absolutely love this blade so much, and I wish I had one, like a real one. I love the handle on it. I love the black charcoal colours in the blade itself. I love its Ash of War. I love how the colours are red and it's like a flame burning infused with death. I think just everything about this calls to me. I love it. I think it's epic. And therefore it goes in the epic and effective because the Ash of War on this blade is pretty epic. So therefore it's going in the epic and effective tier. Next up then we have the Shadow Sunflower Blossom. This weapon was actually something I was considering running with for quite a long time and like to use in a lot of the game. And I'm actually considering, you know, trying New Game Plus with this weapon. I think it's an awesome weapon. I don't love the boss it drops from, but I love the lore and the idea behind it. It's a very, very cool concept, and I would consider using it. It's quite effective if I remember right. And I love how it's the sunflower, which is very reminiscent and very... There's something special about it in Elden Ring. You see a lot of the sunflowers in Elden Ring, so therefore I think it has to go in epic and effective. I could be talking absolute shit right now, but I don't believe I am because I love the blade so much. So therefore it goes in the top tier. Next up we have the drop from Ymir, the Staff of the Great Beyond. I don't know, this weapon just doesn't really do it for me at all. I don't even think it's a cool concept. It's just, I don't know. I don't love it. It's, maybe if you're a magic user, it's like awesome. To me, it just, there's no appeal for me to use it at all. So perhaps it's a cool concept, like with what's in it and stuff, but I would just never use it. So therefore it can go in the cool but never use. Okay, another one of my absolute favorite blades in Elden Ring. We have Margot's Cursed Sword. Let's just take a little moment to savor this weapon, because not only does this weapon look incredibly cool, it has like 2 phases. The weapon has 2 phases. Like many cool bosses that get 2 phases, this weapon has 2 phases. So this is Margot's staff, which you see him use throughout the game, and then when you get to have his epic boss battle in one of the awesome arenas of Lendel, he breaks off the shackles that are surrounding this blade, and you see this magnificent thing before you, and it's awesome, and you're like, I gotta have that blade. And not only does it look cool, it's actually very effective. It's got a very cool slicing Ash of War with fire, and it's just an epic blade with an epic boss and epic lore. I love Margot. I think hands down he's one of my favourite bosses in the game, one of my favourite characters. He's a great guy, awesome, and much respect for him and his weapon. So therefore I think that has to go in the epic and effective. Next up then we have the giant red braid. Okay, this is a weapon where I thought it was going to be really, really good, and then I used it, max leveled it, and I have to say it was the biggest letdown of the game. It's got like this whipping Ash of War with this cool red flame coming off, and the damage on it is just exactly that was my reaction when I seen it. But yeah, it's not a great weapon. It's a cool concept. I like how they're like, yeah, let's use a braid from one of the giants, the fire giants. But sadly, it's just very, very poor weapon choice. In fairness, I did try it against Millennia, so that's maybe why it wasn't as effective as it should have been. But from that disappointment, I have to go. I don't even think it's trying. It's not even trying. It's more of a concept, I think. So I think cool concept would never use. Next up, we have the Great Sword of Damnation from Midra. This weapon is, I think many people would agree, it's quite a letdown. This weapon comes from, it does come from Midra, right? I'm not like making that up. I think it does. It's, even the Ash of War for it is just like so, it's almost as if someone just didn't communicate on the team that this was Midra's sword or weapon that drops from him, and that he was like a boss that has like madness. Because like those two just didn't commute. There's no madness build up. There's no epic flames, no nothing from this. It's such a letdown. So therefore I have to actually put that in the bottom tier. Why FromSoft? Why? They could have done something so much more with the weapon from Midra. Midra is like one of the coolest bosses from the DLC, and the fact that his weapon is this with it doesn't look bad. It looks good, it looks fine. But the Ash of War just did not do it for me. So therefore, bottom tier. Next up, we have the Carian Regal Scepter, which I believe drops from Renala. I'm not a magic user, so therefore I don't really use these kind of weapons. I think it's an absolutely beautiful weapon. So the Carian Regal Scepter is like supposedly one of the best staffs in the game. I wouldn't know because I don't really use intelligence builds. So I can't really say it's ineffective because it supposedly is. So I'm just going to put it in cool concept but never used. So it's a bit unfair to maybe rate that one, but I can't rate it fairly, I suppose. Next up then we have the Axe of Godfrey. Now Godfrey is one of the coolest bosses, I'd have to say, in the game. Not one of my favorite, but one of the coolest, because he is the true definition of a warrior. He's bloody, he's gory, he's strong, and he reeks of manlyhood. So I believe this axe really does represent that. It's a really cool, colossal weapon. So if you're someone who loves just doing that really hard damage on bosses and enemies, then it's definitely one for you. To me, it's maybe something I would use early in game, and then I would switch to something a bit more theatrical, like Malekith's Blades with the really cool Ash of War. But this axe is awesome. It's effective. It's okay in design. Where would I put it though? I think it has to go in, it's trying. I feel bad for putting the axes in there. We've already got Godric's axe, but it's trying. It's really trying, and I do respect it, but it's just not something that I would use. So maybe we have to put it in cool concept. We'll put it in cool concept. Next up we have the Grafted Dragon. It's underwhelming to me, this, because you can't two-hand it, and I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me. It's a cool concept, but I would never use, so that's all I have to say about it, really. Next up we have the Putrescent Cleaver. In fairness, the design for this one is pretty epic, but to me, I just don't feel like this is the most effective weapon. I love how it looks like teeth, and it's got the skulls on it. I love the boss, he's very cool, but to me, this weapon just doesn't do it. I don't love its move style. I don't love its Ash of War, so therefore I think it has to go in pretty epic in terms of design, but to me it's not that effective. Next up we have the Lion Great Bow from Redan. This is a pretty awesome bow, but to me it's just not that effective. I don't really use bows, I only use them if I'm trying to annoy something or hit something that I can't get to, or in terms of leveling I would use it to grind out that bird near Moog's palace, but apart from that, to me, this weapon isn't something I'd use. It's not that effective, so therefore I have to put it in epic, but ineffective. Next we have the Sword Lance. Now, it may not look like much, but this weapon is actually really, really cool. It has a very, very effective Ash of War. It does pretty good damage, and it doesn't need somber smithing stones. It can level up with regular smithing stones, which is pretty awesome. I've come to actually really appreciate this sword, so therefore I think it's going to go in the effective and epic column. Plus, getting that sword from Commander Gaius, it feels like a big win, so therefore it's definitely going in the top tier. Next up on our list, we have Dragon King's Craigblade. This weapon it's alright. I love the design for this weapon, but to me, I just don't feel it is as effective as I would have liked it to have been. The Ash of War is pretty cool. Overall, I think it's just not as effective as it could have been, so therefore it's going in the epic but ineffective column. That's not to say that it doesn't really work against any enemy, but to me it's just not as effective as I would have liked it to have been. So the Sacred Relic Sword. This is a pretty good one for mobs and dungeons and things like that, but to me it's just not one I would really go to use. It's not something that would appeal to me. The design is pretty mid, not much going on. The Ash of War is pretty good again for mobs, but to me overall the weapon is just a bit standard, not something I would use. Okay, next up we have Relana's Twin Blades. Now, I can fully appreciate this boss and these blades in the DLC. It's not something we asked for, but it's something we got, and I'm so glad that we did. Relana is such an epic boss. I love her lore and her little romance with Mesmir. Sad, but hey, that's the realm of Elden Ring. But these blades are awesome. I love the fact that you can do so much. There's two of them, and they both stand for two different things. One of them is magic, and one of them is fire. And the fire has this awesome tornado style Ash of War that's super powerful. I love these blades, and I think it's definitely a special gift from Elden Ring, or from FromSoft, to get these blades in Elden Ring. So therefore I think they're going to go in epic and effective. And on that note of Mesmir, next up we have the Spear of the Impaler. So everything about Mesmir I love. The backstory, the character design, the lore, the Impaler staff that he has and killed me many times with. But I, for one, love this spear. I think it's super effective. I think it's great. It can be a bit wonky in terms of using the Ash of War, and you sadly can be knocked out of it. But I think overall this is a beautiful staff. It's super cool and intricate design. It kind of is giving me the vibes of Dracula with the red and the black. Again, I just love it. Everything about it's epic, and Mesmir is one of the most epic bosses in the game, and the fact that you can do the Ash of War that has the spears coming out at the end is just it's just everything you want from a weapon in Elden Ring. So therefore I think this has to go in the epic and effective. And on that note of effective weapons, we have the Hand of Millennia. Now this isn't just an effective weapon, but this is also an epic weapon. I love this blade. I think it's really cool. I love the feel of it. I love fighting enemies with it. I love the Ash of War. But sadly, it's just not something that I would really choose to use throughout the game. It's just not something I feel comfortable using. It's fun for a minute, but honestly, it's just not something I would use. So I'm going to put it... I don't know. I'm kind of stuck with this one because it is epic and effective, but it's a cool concept that I would just never use unless I was doing like that rot build. But I can't give it a fair rating because I've never ran with a rot build. Oh, that's a tough one. I want to give it S tier or epic and effective, but that would be unfair because I haven't really properly used it. So it's a sad moment when I'm going to have to put this in the same tier as the braid and the finger. So I just don't know if I want to do it. No, we're going to put it in epic and effective. Well, no, it's a cool concept. No, I don't know. I need help. I need help. That settles it. It's going in the epic and effective tier. It has to. It has to. It's too cool. On that note, I'm going to move myself down so we can still see what is on that epic and effective. Next up, we have Mogwin's Sacred Spear. I know a lot of people love this spear, and I also do. I mainly love it because it's Mogwin's, and I love Mog. I think he's one of the most epic bosses in terms of design, culture, story. Everything about him reeks of awesomeness. And this spear is truly only one that can be handled and used by someone as cool as Mog. I have a lot of respect for this weapon, but sadly it's just not something I would really use in the game. I'm not really a blood build. On the note of it just being so epic and effective, I think it has to go in the top tier for sure. I think it's just awesome. It's a trident. It's super cool. You cannot say it's not. And our last weapon of the tier list, we have the pole blade of the blood. I have a love-hate relationship with this boss, to be honest. I really like this boss, but I just wish there was a lot more lore on her because there's no connection there to build up any kinds of love or hate for her. But there's a bit of lore, but there's just not enough. So overall, I think the pole blade is cool. I think it's a fair design for who it's from. It's got like the scorpion stinger at the top, which I think is nice. It's got the pink for the rot. And I love its Ash of War, which has the butterflies. And it's a very cool Ash of War because it's like one of those mobile ones which you fly around, which I'm quite a fan of those ones. But overall, I just think it's not something I would use, and it's not as effective as I would have liked it to have been. It's just, it doesn't feel as juicy and as like raw as anything else in the game. It needs to be bloodier, it needs to be more full of rot and stuff like that, but it's still a cool concept and I still have a lot of respect for it. But I think it has to go in the epic but ineffective. So that is our tier list for Elden Ring boss weapons. When it comes to weapons in the Soul series, Elden Ring and whatnot, I'm just a big fan. I love weapons, I love the design for weapons, and I also love recreating those weapons. So you can also check out my Instagram if you want to see some drawings I do of those weapons, as well as just some like of the characters from the Soul series. But yeah, check those out if you really want to see some of my art. And thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do comment down below and let me know your thoughts on this tier list and on your favorite weapon of Elden Ring, because I would love to discuss that with you. A big shout out to my awesome Loot Goblin members. Thank you very much, Bailey and Pancakes and Hammers. You guys are super awesome. And I'm very grateful for your support and all the fun we have on the membership page. So thank you very much for watching, guys. And if you'd like to join as a member, remember to check out the memberships on my channel page and hit that join if you'd love to see what awesome things we get up to. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see you again real soon. Farewell.